Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1. Now let's have a chat about the Italian Grand Prix. Now we're going to change up the format today, so if you do enjoy it, please let me know down in the comments below, and of course let me know your opinions on the Grand Prix and the key points we discuss, and I'll try and get back to as many of you as I can. So let's run down the race order then. Charles Leclerc picking up Ferrari's first win in Monza since Fernando Alonso in 2010. A fantastic drive from him today. Few moments maybe with Lewis Hamilton that were a little bit questionable about the mid stage of the race, but we'll get onto those in a minute. Talking about Hamilton, he finished third with Valtteri Bottas in second, the two Mercedes rounding out the podium. Couldn't quite touch the Ferrari in the end due to their tyre life, but still a very good race from them and picking up some good constructors' points. On a subject of good constructors' points, Renault having their best finish, I think, since they came back to the sport in 2016, with Daniel Ricciardo in P4 and Nico Hülkenberg in P5. Alexander Albon having an okay race for Red Bull in P6, not quite as good as his comeback in Spa, but still a good race nonetheless. Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, Antonio Giovinazzi, and then Lando Norris rounded out the top 10. Pierre Gasly in his second race back at Toro Rosso finished P11, which wasn't bad after the comeback with his incident with Vettel, which we'll get on. Same for Lance Stroll finishing in P12, having had a I think it was actually a drive-through penalty for that incident as well. Sebastian Vettel in P13, absolute horror show for him today. We will get onto him in a minute though in a bit more detail. But a good race for George Russell coming home P14 in that Williams. Not bad, judging by the fact that Williams is very, very slow in a straight line, and even Russell himself came out to say that this was probably going to be his worst weekend of the season. Kimi Räikkönen, another driver to have a horror show in that second Alfa Romeo, finished P15, with Romain Grosjean and Robert Kubica being the last drivers to finish the race. Now, three drivers weren't able to finish. It was Kevin Magnussen that retired on lap 45 with some sort of technical issue. Not too sure what that was yet. Danny Kvyat retired about the midpoint at lap 30 with what we think is an oil leak. And then Carlos Sainz Jr., of course, had an issue in the pit stop when one of his tyres wasn't fitted. A big shame for him. Lost a lot of points for McLaren today. So now then, let's talk about some of the key points of the race. Starting with lap 1, turn 1. It was Lewis Hamilton that actually got the better start compared to Charles Leclerc and was actually alongside going to turn 1, but Charles getting the better line was able to keep ahead. Would have been interesting to see how the race would have panned out had Hamilton got ahead there. To be honest, I think at any point in the race, had Hamilton got ahead, he would have stayed ahead. So Leclerc did a really good job keeping him behind. The drama really though in the front pack was with Sebastian Vettel, who lost out to Nico Hülkenberg, who I think might have made the better start of the Renaults actually, and then Ricciardo sort of got stuck on the outside, I think with Valtteri Bottas at turn 1, couldn't really progress anywhere, but a great start for Hülkenberg, and yeah, he got overtaken again by Vettel pretty much within a lap or two, but by that point the other three were well up the road, and Vettel's chances of winning that Grand Prix were pretty much out the window. Now, Vettel's race continued to unravel with that incident at Ascari, so it looked like he just dropped it completely on his own. I don't think he put a tyre on the grass or on the curb. He just put the power down way too quickly and just, lost the back end. Now, we did see that a lot, I guess. It was Kimi Räikkönen that hit the wall at the Parabolica twice over the course of the weekend. The second time in qualifying, costing him a gearbox. I think that's partly down to the rear wings and how skinny they've made the rear wings. I'll try and show a few pictures up in the video. But with that lack of downforce, I guess they just didn't have enough grip to go around those high-speed corners. And, it makes sense to have those skinny rings. I mean, Monza's one of the high-speed, I think, probably the most power-sensitive track on the calendar. And top speed is so efficient, so you want to cut down as much of that drag as possible. But yeah, very, very interesting to see several cars spinning today. I think Grosjean had a few spins as well over the course of the race. But that big one, it's not just the spin, it's how he came back on track. Now, how he could have seen Stroll coming on, I'm not too sure, but I do think he was maybe a little bit too hasty. Sort of brought me back to that incident in Baku with Daniel Ricciardo and Danny Kvyat, where Ricciardo was just so eager to get back on the track after going wide that he didn't realise that Kvyat was still behind him and reversed into him. I think it was a very similar incident here. Vettel didn't really think about cars coming through, and then instead came on very, very abruptly, took out Stroll pretty much, who complained on the radio, then proceeded to do the exact same thing to Pierre Gasly. So were both penalties deserved? Definitely. I mean, the group chat I was in was saying, why haven't they got the same penalty? But if you think about it, Vettel caused damage to Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll didn't damage any part of Pierre Gasly's car. At least he didn't make contact, just forced him wide. So I can see why there was a difference in penalty there. But I think, as the Sky Sports commentary team said, it did feel like a big changing of the guard today, with Charles Leclerc taking his second race win in a row, second race win of the season, and Sebastian Vettel just making more mistakes. Another driver touch on then is Alexander Albon. It was very similar to Spa, how he had a bit of a shaky first half of the race, took him a while to find his feet, find the car, and then the second half sort of came alive. Just this time, it was a little bit too little too late, and I think he got in touching distance of Nico Hülkenberg, but it just wasn't enough to get there and get that overtake. I do wonder if perhaps they turned the Honda engines down, maybe after Danny Kvyat had his engine blow up, but even though I think Albon just not as impressive as he was in Spa. So I do just want to touch on the Renaults. Now, of course, I am a Danny Ric fan, but yeah, I was very, very happy to see him coming home P4 and Hülkenberg P5, a really good, strong showing. I was a little bit worried once they announced that Hülkenberg would be dropped from Renault at the end of the year. I was a little bit worried that he maybe wouldn't have that fire in him, but he was really punchy, like I said, especially at the start. Getting past Sebastian Vettel was like it was no mean feat. He did it really, really well. So a great job for Renault today. And I think it was, as I said, their best performance since coming back in 2016. So yeah, a really good showing for them today. Hopefully they can carry that forward. Again, with poor showings from, well, I guess Force India and also, more importantly, McLaren, that helps really bolster them up in the constructor standings. Not too sure what they look like at the moment after that race, but I'm pretty certain they'll be a lot closer. So yeah, another, 22 points in comparison to McLaren's 1 at the end of that race. So a really, really good showing for them today. And now, lastly, Charles Leclerc's defence. So there was a few instances, there was a bit of weaving going on, I think, especially towards the end of the race. And we did see in the Formula 2 race, I think it was Jack Aitken who had he got a black and white flag, actually, for weaving a little bit too much going down the straights, trying to break the toe, which, of course, is so key in Monza. I think in qualifying, it was giving like half a second extra performance. So, do I agree with it? For the most part, yes. The instant, I think it turn 4 or turn 5 or the second chicane with Lewis Hamilton, I think was possibly a little bit too aggressive. Should have given Lewis a little bit more room. But it's racing. I'm quite happy that the stewards didn't give him a penalty and did just use that yellow card, black and white flag system. It means the racing's kept pure. I mean, can you imagine if he got robbed of that win after a penalty for that incident with Hamilton? The Tifosi would not be the happiest people on the planet, I'll tell you that. But I do think his drive today, I think, is going to really set the precedent for Sebastian Vettel's future. Not for next year. He's obviously contracted onto the team, and I don't think he's going to walk away from Ferrari at the end of this year. There's nowhere he can really go apart from maybe Red Bull, and they've already denied that that's really going to happen. But going into 2021, it's going to be interesting. If this sort of form carries on and he becomes a new Kimi Räikkönen in Ferrari, it will be interesting to see where he goes. If he goes anywhere, he could even decide to retire at the end of 2020 if he doesn't like the 2021 rules or just feels like his time is up. Now, he does keep saying, I want to win this championship with Ferrari, but as time goes on, I think his best chance really was 2017 or 2018. Now, maybe actually, 2017 I think was probably his best chance. Obviously, he had a really strong start to the season, but Ferrari in general have faded away at the end of seasons. Maybe as that's just the way they develop their car and they focus onto the new car a little bit earlier, which is why they have such a good start to the following year. But I am a little bit worried for Sebastian Vettel at the moment, I'll be perfectly honest. One final thing I do want to touch on. It's not actually about the Formula 1 event, but actually the Formula 3 event that happened on Saturday. Now, FP3 was delayed because they had to take away all the sausage curbs around the runoff at the Parabolica after a massive crash for Alex Peroni. I'll see if I can put some of the images up on screen if you haven't seen it already. Thankfully, though, he did come out more or less unharmed. I think he did fracture a vertebrae in his back, but without the halo, it could have been a lot worse. That car landed upside down, and really the only thing protecting Peroni's head was the halo. So now more than ever, if it wasn't in any doubt, I think the halo is here to stay, and I think it's a fantastic addition. Even though I was pretty much against it when it first came in, we've had enough instance now to see that it's proved its worth, I think. But yeah, what I really want to get out of that is using these sausage curbs the right way to go. We've seen them destroy car suspension in the past. I think Singapore was a really good example of that, where I think it was a Force India about 5-6 years ago, which went over one of the sausage curbs and just ripped its suspension apart. Is there an alternative? And to be fair, yeah, and the Parabolica used to have it. If you go back about, again, 5-6 years, the Parabolica had no runoff at all. It was track gravel. And to be fair, that was fantastic. It made the Parabolica a much more dangerous corner. And yeah, it stopped people going wide at all. Why they took that gravel away, I don't know. And there was quite a debate about it when it first got taken away. But yeah, why can't they bring it back? I mean, drivers are not going to go out there. Again, if you go back to... if you say in Monza, actually, go into, I think, again, that second chicane, turn 4, turn 5, and if you look on the outside of that chicane, where really drivers, had there been no gravel, I mean, it's an obvious place to try and get a bit of extra time, but they've put gravel there, and no driver runs wide, because as soon as you go over that gravel, you're losing time. Exactly the same thing with the Lesmos at Spa as well, not Spa, at Monza as well. So... yeah, why they haven't brought back gravel, I'm not too sure. I know there are maybe a few risks with it flipping cars, if maybe cars hit at the wrong angle. But, to be fair, if you want to minimise the... if you want to minimise people, going off track and gaining extra time, then really, I can't see any other alternative, to be honest. But that is all from me today then. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the Grand Prix. To be honest, I think it was probably one of the best ones we've seen this year. It was a really exciting race. Monza usually does kick up quite a lot of excitement, quite a lot of good racing, and today was no different. So, yeah, a really good race today, and a really good weekend overall, I think, with Formula 3 and Formula 2 also being really exciting. But yeah, let me know what you thought, and of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.